Hello, I'm the Sad Pandas, and this is the second episode of my series, I Read This, Should You?, where I give you a recommendation to read something that I've read, like a manga, a book, or a web novel. And this episode is going to be on Bank of the Universe by Girl Wears Short Skirt. Of course, we'll only touch on the first 100 chapters or so, because I don't want to spoil everything, and if you do decide to read it, it's good to not be spoiled. Pretty easy, so let's get into it. First thing I want to talk about is, what is the Bank of the Universe about? That's the first thing we'll talk about here. In short, it's about our main character, Lee Zandao. In his final moments, is transported to a place called Bank of the Universe. Lee is told by an AI spirit named Seven that he is to be the 9th master of the bank, and his job is to be debt collecting and making new deals to further the influence of the bank in the 10 lands and 9 skies. I'll explain where the 10 lands and 9 skies are, as well as what the bank is in a moment. So that is the main plot point. The idea is that Lee is the 9th master, and the master before him, the 8th master, essentially bankrupted the bank, taking deals that don't make sense, giving stuff away for practically nothing, and letting the deals be broken, letting these contracts be broken. And that's how we'll explain how the deals work in the bank once we get more into that. Now that we discussed the plot, we'll discuss the setting. So most of the story does take place in the Bank of the Universe, which does make sense because that is what the novel is called. But it also takes place in the locations of the 10 lands and the 9 skies. I'll explain those after I explain the bank. Bank exists in its own subspace or pocket dimension, I would say. And in the bank, the master of the bank is a god. So this isn't like hyperbole or anything. Anything that happens within the bank is known by the bank master. He can do anything in the bank. Outside of the bank, he may not be as powerful, but that is just how the story goes for now. We'll talk about our main character and stuff once we get into power levels and things, because it'll be very easy to understand. We'll also talk about contracts and stuff when we get into power levels as well. So unfortunately, the previous owner of the bank did ruin the bank's reputation. So instead of it being what it used to be, which I think was like 10 mountain ranges worth of like materials, books, celestial artifacts, spirit meridians, tons of stuff like this, they basically have nothing. And in order to get this stuff back, our main character Lee, he must go and collect debts from these super powerful people. I'll explain power levels and cultivation and stuff once we get there. And I'll explain the debts when we're there as well. So now that we've talked about the bank a little bit, I will explain what the 10 lands and the 9 skies are. The easiest way to explain the 10 lands and the 9 skies would be like 19 planets. And I know that it sounds kind of confusing. It is kind of confusing, but it's pretty simple to understand once we explain it. So the 10 lands is like the 10 lowest planes, essentially. The higher you are in the 10 lands, the more powerful you can be, and the same thing with the 9 skies. Obviously, the lowest, I'll tell you what the lowest of the 10 lands are, is the Dali land, and it is the weakest. So even if you are a powerhouse in Dali land, if you were to ascend to a different land, you would be fodder. You would be weak. You'd be as weak as like regular people there. That's essentially how it is. So the all the way up to the highest plane, which would be the heaven sky, which is the 9th sky. It is the highest sky. It's the closest to the celestial world, and it has the densest key, which is just like in Chrysalis, where the mana, the deeper you go, the more dense it is. It's the same thing, but opposite. So the higher you are in these 9 skies or the 10 lands, the more like powerful and dense the key is, which makes cultivation easier, which makes pretty much everything you do easier. So that's the 10 lands. And unfortunately, we don't get to see a whole lot of the 10 lands and the 9 skies. We do jump around between a couple of them, but mostly we stick between a couple of lands and a couple of skies. I would like to see more. I think it'd be cool to see more dynamics and power struggles and stuff. We do see some of that, but not as much as I would like. I want to talk about how trading works in the Bank of the Universe. So I do have, like I said before, a script, bulletin points, all that stuff. But on my script, it said anything can be traded. And that's pretty much what you need to know. Anything from regular money to spirit meridians, potential, even talent can be traded away. Stuff that you can't even measure, like happiness or sadness, can be traded away, as long as what you're trading is worth it to the bank master, which is our Lee Zandao. We'll talk about power levels right now because we're talking about these trades. One of my main gripes with this story is the power level jumps exponentially. It's not like, the easiest way to explain this is our main character, Li Zhendao, is a transmigrator. Obviously, I didn't bring this up earlier because it's not a big part of the story. In fact, it's not important at all to the story. But he is a transmigrator, and when he transmigrated, he entered a family that kept him as a slave. He has no talent. He has nothing that he could possibly use. He's very weak. He's not even in the foundation realm, which is the lowest cultivation realm. I will explain cultivation realms in a little bit because we're getting on to that. But yeah, he's like beaten every day or whatever, and eventually he's like beaten half to death, almost dead, and is transported to the bank. Now, in going to the bank, he pretty much gets anything that you want, but it makes sense, but it doesn't at the same time, and I'll explain why. It makes sense because, you know, the banks, the way it operates is in order to find clients, they send out these like red glowing watches that if you were to break, it'll transport you to the Bank of the Universe where you can talk to the bank master himself and present your case, present what you want and what you can give in the contract. Now, in the past, when the Bank of the Universe was like fully operational, was spread across the entire 10 lands and 9 skies, they had millions of watches, and of course, they all seek out people that are desperate. I mean, that's kind of like how loan sharks work in real life. They seek the people that are desperate, and they will give you what you need, but the payback might be a little more than you expect, even if it doesn't sound like that much. But we'll get to that in a second. Li Zhendao, his weak nothing, it becomes the master of the bank. So what happens then is that he has to go and debt collect because, as I said before, the 8th master pretty much bankrupted the whole thing, left a lot of debts uncollected, lost almost all of their revenue, lost literally everything. So all they have left is, instead of like 10 mountain ranges worth of like items and things, they have a single room and 3 watches. That's it. And so it's very difficult for our main character to go and collect debts. He's a regular guy, and some of these people are like celestials, so they're actual like gods. So he has to go and like, one of these is a celestial that like took like 10 celestial artifacts and said he would come back with like 100, but he's a celestial, and you know, when you get to a certain power level in this world, most of them become arrogant because, I mean, if you're a god, who's going to tell you what to do? Especially if you're like one of the strongest or the strongest god, who's going to tell you to return those 10 celestial artifacts plus the 100 that you owe? No one's going to do that. And so our bank master is like, oh, well, how do I become stronger? How do I become strong enough to collect from these celestials? Well, it's like almost immediately they throw out these 3 watches. The first 3 trades are bonkers broken. So the first trade is he trades 5 years of his own life, because that's all he has, to a Tao pursuing realm person. And I will explain, we're explaining power levels now, so this will be a good time to do so. Real quick, timeout. I'm about to go on a tangent about the Waxu, I think is what I said. That's wrong. Not only about what it is, about the trope. It's Mandarin. What I'm thinking of, Xianxia, which is high fantasy, essentially. It's Chinese novels. What they represent is like regular people that can gain insane, like, supernatural fighting prowess based on energy cultivation, which is what I will talk about cultivation and stuff. I just wanted to let you know that I am wrong, but I'm not going to go back and re-record the entire video because I made a mistake like 2/3 of the way through. So I will edit this and put this in as well. Thank you for understanding. Back to the... So, when it comes to power levels, I don't know if you know, they're called Waxu novels, I think. I don't know how to pronounce it exactly. It's Chinese. But one of the main tropes in like Chinese novels is cultivation, as well as systems and transmigration. So this one is more about cultivation. But there's multiple realms, and then once you get to a certain point, each realm has like multiple stages, and each each of these is like exponentially stronger than the previous one. So like if you're in the Foundation realm, which is the first realm, and you try to like fight someone that's in the Life Wheel realm, which is the third realm, you will not win. There's nothing you can do. It's not like if you try hard enough you can win, or if you you know, if you are more skilled you can win. But that might be the case. If you're more skilled you might be able to win, but the thing is they are so much stronger, so much faster, that even if they don't have the techniques that you have, you will get swamped. And the issue that comes from this is this Tao pursuing realm person, he needs more life, because if you know or not, in cultivation, in these stories, there's a set amount of life you can live. So if you are in the Foundation realm, you get like an extra 50 years or something, and then Ascension you get like another 50 years. You know, it's kind of like that. It's not always 50 years, it's like exponential. So like by the time you're a Celestial, you have an infinite lifespan because it's so much. But this Tao pursuing realm guy is on his deathbed, so he's about to die because he's at his age limit. He's like a couple days away from death. And he's like, I need to live for longer, because if I die here, my entire clan will be wiped out, because I made a lot of enemies when I was young, and I'm the only one strong enough to protect my clan until at least somebody can become the same realm as me. So he gets one of these red watches appear because they search for people that are in need like this, and he breaks it. And Lee, not having anything to trade but his lifespan, luckily, it trades with a guy that needs lifespan, luckily. And in doing so, he gets a Spirit Meridian, which lets him open up a time chamber, which, just like a hyperbolic time chamber from Dragon Ball Z, it's the same kind of thing, where if you spend life force, you can spend multiple years in minutes, just like that. And wow, that's super lucky, but it's fine. You know, that's one of those things that you'll see in like books and stuff. They need the main character to unlock stuff and show the new stuff. But where I get upset is the second trade, or the third trade. I don't remember if it's the second or third, but I do know that he gets something called a Prophet's Talent. Now, I wouldn't be upset if this was something that, like, even if you get a Prophet's Talent, you still take some time to get more powerful. But since he has this time chamber thing, right, he can become powerful pretty much instantaneously. And since he has this Prophet's Talent, which lets you pretty much use a Sharingan, which means you just look at something and you learn it, and then you can replicate it pretty much perfectly on your first attempt, he becomes infinitely strong, infinitely fast. So he outgrows everyone in like the land he's in, and then he like goes to the next land. He's already stronger than everyone, and he can punch up like multiple realms, which is unheard of in these kind of stories. I mean, obviously in these stories, it'll have people that will like fight up like a single step or 3 steps or 5 steps, which is huge. And steps are, there's multiple stages in these cultivation realms, right? Each realm has like, not all of them have like multiple stages, but the big ones, like the ones that show that you are very powerful, have multiple stages, like 18 stages or something like that. And if you are like the 9th stage and you try to fight like the 15th stage, it's going to be a tough fight. It's going to be pretty much useless. But you could maybe win if you had like perfect techniques, perfect timing, and all this stuff. But he's punching up like multiple realms. So these are these steps are like astronomically different, and it bothers me a little bit. I like the story where it is now because he's like on par with the people that he's like dealing with, which makes the story more interesting instead of him just like one-shotting everyone and getting exactly what he wants. And that isn't a little bit of an issue, but it's not that bad. You know, honestly, I would give this story probably, if I gave Chrysalis an 8, I would probably give this one like a 7.3 maybe. Because I do like the story. I think it's good. There's some repetitiveness because of the way that the story is structured with the 10 lands and the 9 skies. It's pretty much the same thing. Go here, collect this, go here, collect this, go here, collect this. The fun is the side characters that you meet, and also like the relationships that Lee is building with people, like the hierarchy of some kingdoms and stuff that he's like taken over. But by proxy. So like one of these princesses, there was a princess that was like getting killed by like, or trying to get murdered by her family, and she like finds this watch. She's like, I need you to make me an empress. And he's like, all right, I will do that as long as you're my slave forever. And it's not like the weird kind of slave. No, it's just like, if I tell you to do something, you'll do it. I'm not gonna bother with you all the time because you're so weak or whatever. Like, obviously he has like an idea of like controlling the entire kingdom through the empress. So he makes her an empress, which is really fun how they get there, and how he can't just like do it, because it's not how things work. You can't just make somebody an empress, even if they're the princess. He has to go through like, through some other like princes and stuff, and they have to like fight really strong people, and then he has to provide her with like an invincible army just so she can like hold on to her position, which I don't want to get into the invincible army thing, because the invincible army thing makes me upset. It's not bad. It's so sudden. Like the changes in tempo and in the story is just so sudden. It's like 1 second he's a Foundation Realm nobody, and the next second he's like Heavenly Grotto Realm 10, stronger than anyone that's even 4 realms above him. He's just like punching them, killing them in one shot. And it's just quick. It's just jarring, which is why I only give it like a 7.3 or even a 7 instead of like an 8, a 9, or a 10. I think I would only give a couple things a 10, and even that, I don't know. But this is just my opinion on it. 7.3 is a 7.3 out of 10 is my rating. So if you want to read it, I would give it a read. It's very good. I will post probably another video on, maybe on this, and I'll talk more about the Invincible Army thing, because I will probably end up ranting about it. That's pretty much what I'm doing now, is just ranting about the stuff that I don't like. But the stuff that I do like is so good. Like a lot of the characters are really fun, and Lee's relationship with Seven is interesting, and how that's going. And he's like, you would think that in a lot of these like web novels and stuff, it's a lot of like harems, and it's a lot of like tons of partners and stuff. But no, it's like a husband and wife thing. It's like super nice, and it's like really sweet. Also, I think some of like the action scenes are fantastic. Like there's or some of the one-liners are also great. There's a scene where Lee is already like super strong, and like his subordinates are trying to go and collect debts, because he collects subordinates over time, and one of his subordinates is like too weak and is about to die, and like from like 1,000 miles away, 1,000,000 miles away, he like launches a sword energy that like blocks the killing blow, and he's like, who are you to kill one of my subordinates? Like, how badass is that? That's sick, and I love that. But not everything is like that. But hey, the fun parts are really fun, and the bad parts are few and far between. I would recommend you read it. Obviously, you don't have to, but I would give her a shot. Have a good rest of your day. Like and subscribe if you like the content. Leave a comment and I'll respond to it. And if you don't like the content, please leave a comment and tell me what I need to do to help, because I'm new to this. I want to get to 10 subscribers, and we're almost there, man. We're at 6, so we're popping off. So yeah, have a great rest of your day, and see ya.